condition?
Well, depression, anxiety, insomnia.
And PTSD?
Yes, anxiety is part of the PTSD.
It's anxiety part
yes.
of the PTSD. Who prescribed it?
Dr. Bosch, he's psychiatrist.
When?
I'm not sure when he started seeing him, but when I interviewed Dr. Bosch, I knew they had a consultation, for instance, last year, October, and then fairly recently again.
So,
Not sure when he started.
so Dr. Bosch is his psychiatrist?
That's correct.
I see. And you saw Dr. Bosch on the 6th of June?
I just spoke to him over the phone.
Spoke to him over the phone?
Yes.
You never had a consultation with him apart from that?
No.
You spoke to him over the phone, and that was after your consultations with the accused?
Yes.
You're of the view that the accused needs to be hospitalized.
I am already.
Did you take steps?
No, I just conveyed this to his legal counsel. In my opinion,
You see, Dr. Scholtz, Professor, pardon me, but as a psychologist
yes.
that has spoken to his psychiatrist, don't you think you should have mentioned it?
To the psychiatrist?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes, I discussed it with him.
You just said to us that you spoke to counsel.
Yes, but I also discussed it with the psychiatrist. I mentioned to both parties that I'm concerned that, in my opinion, he should be hospitalized. That's what
Okay. You see, Doctor, what I find difficult is you give one answer and if you press, you give another. But, so you're telling this court that
Yes.
you spoke to the psychiatrist saying that your view that Mr. Pistorius should be hospitalized.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you know if he did anything?
No, because Mr. Pistorius wasn't hospitalized. So.
Yeah. So you reported it and nothing happened.
Yes.
Do you know if counsel did anything?
No, because he isn't hospitalized. So I assume
So
that.
nobody did anything?
No.
Okay. The assessment of the accused, you indicated that, as far as you're concerned, his condition is worsening.
It has worsened since 2014 when I saw him. Yes, ma'am.
And a pending sentence for any accused would cause anxiety. Do you agree?
Yes, it would.
Having gone through a trial would cause depression, especially if sentencing awaits.
It would exacerbate the depression.
Yes.
It'd make it worse.
Did you receive any reports from Dr. Bosch?
No, I didn't.
Did not ask him for his reports or his views?
That's why I called him, just to confirm that he was treating him, medication.
And that's all.
Yes.
Now, you also indicate that the accused is coping and is benefiting from psychotherapy.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would his condition then worsen?
He's got a severe condition, and in psychotherapy, it's not an easy fix. It's not a matter of you attend a few amount of sessions and then you are better. It sometimes takes years. Coupled to that, I think what we have here is that there's consistent adversity. I mean, the trial isn't finished. He doesn't know where he stands. So it is a matter of him being held in psychotherapy.
But apart from psychotherapy,
Yes.
we also have him seeing a psychiatrist.
Yes.
So then, are you saying that the treatment that he's getting from Dr. Bosch is also not working? Because according to you, his condition is worsening.
It is working, but he would have been worse without the medication.
No.
Yes, and that is something we find common in practice. The fact that you're on medication does not mean that you are instantly better.
But certainly, you will agree with me, and perhaps it's not your scope. But a psychiatrist will pick up on the worsening condition and deal with his medication accordingly. Am I right?
Yes, he will.
And did it happen here? You don't know.
I don't know. The last consultation with Dr. Bosch was in October, prior to the very recent one. So I don't know what he then did to the medication.
Okay, wait. Okay. Are you saying that the accused with this worsening condition saw his psychiatrist in October
Yes, that's
and
correct.
not after that?
And now and recently again, very recently, but between October and recently, there was no consultation.
I find it concerning. You don't. Can we just get an answer? When last did he see?
Now recently, I imagine in a week or somewhere.
Why would you, giving evidence here,
Yes.
not have that
Have that?
detail of when he saw his psychiatrist?
I have that detail. I'm saying he saw him now recently, in the week sometime. Does it matter which day, my lady? I'm just saying in the week sometime now, recently.
Well, you see,
That's-
you ask if it matters.
Yes.
I've taken you up on your answer. He saw him last in October.
Yes.
Why would you give that answer?
Sorry?
Why did you give that answer?
Because that is when he saw him, and then recently again.
No, but you said he saw him last in October. That's
Yes.
all I'm asking.
And then recently again.
But one thing we know, that according to your report, whatever Dr. Bosch is doing, whatever the psychotherapy is doing, his condition, according to you,
Yes.
is worsening.
Yes, ma'am.
But we haven't heard that from his psychiatrist.
What I'm saying is he's worse since I saw him in 2014.
Okay.
He's worse than that time.
Doctor, having seen him earlier on, having seen him now, do you still think that you could be objective?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Objective means that you owe an attitude to the court, and you're the court's witness, and you will put all factors before court,
Yes, ma'am.
positive and negative.
Yes.
I see. Now, Professor, it was interesting. You made your file available to us over the break we just had.
Yes.
There were no tests and test results in it. Do you confirm?
No. Yes.
So we couldn't check that. But we found on the report, in your file, a report by Mrs. Bai, the counseling psychologist at the prison.
Yes.
Can I'm going to just ask you to identify this, please.
Yes, it is a report by her.
Now, in that report, there's certain highlighted areas.
Yes.
That was highlighted by?
This would have been by counsel. I received it like this already.
So you received it like it is highlighted from counsel.
Yes.
And can I have it back, please? And you have read this.
I have read it, yes.
Why did you not include the content of this in your report?
I referred to the fact that I did read it. I differ from the report. I addressed the aspects that were addressed in that report, in my report. The
Well,
criminogenic needs, for instance, that she mentioned.
You see, Doctor, you're avoiding a question. Why did you not refer to the content of this report in yours? That was my question.
Yes, I didn't deem it necessary.
You didn't deem it necessary to refer to the content of this report.
Yes.
I see. Now, I know why. Milady, may I? I don't have a copy, Milady. I will make the necessary copies if we break again. I'm reading from page 2.
You can't read when I don't have the report before me.
Milady, then I do apologize. I've just had no... Oh, there's another. May I then beg leave just to hand up a copy to the court?
Yes, thank you.
Apologies, Milady. I only received it during the break in any case. I'm reading from page 2, lines 1 to 3. The heading reads participation in prison. Centre management reports that Mr. Pistorius struggled to adapt during the first month of incarceration, as he was aggressive and verbally violent towards officials. However, at the time of the report, he was calm, cooperative, and adapted to the centre. Why would you not tell the court about his violent attitudes in prison?
I disagree with the report, my lady, and I'm sorry to have to say it, but it is a poor report in my view.
Professor,
Scientifically speaking, so yes.
no, please, I've interrupted you.
So what I felt to do was to address the aspects that she addressed in my report, to cover them, to go there and assess them like she did.
You see, you just used a very interesting word. I wanted to cover them.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to write it down, but then I want to go back. Why would you say that her understanding, her factual mentioning of verbally violent towards officials and being aggressive, why don't you agree with that?
The one point is the question, how long does one give someone to adapt to a situation like prison? Is it not allowed in the first week, month, to be going through an adaptation? Whilst he's depressed with PTSD, so do we not expect some verbal anger, some upsetness? That part.
I find your answers to be totally biased to the accused and not objective. Because the question is, why did you not include his aggressive and verbally violent interaction towards officials? Why did you not mention that in your report? That's my question. Are you saying it never happened?
It is possible that it happened. I accept that if she says it, that it happened.
Why
Yes.
did you not tell this court about that?
Because I deem it to be very unscientific.
Sorry, Professor, now you've got me. You deem a factual paragraph of an accused being violent and aggressive to be unscientific.
She doesn't indicate how she got to that conclusion. She doesn't indicate, there are no references to anything, how she got to her conclusions in the report at all.
Should you not have taken steps to do that? Talk to her.
No, I've got her report.
Why would you not talk to her if you don't agree with what she's saying and you think she's unscientific?
I address it in my report. I felt I would do a proper assessment and then address it in my report.
You see, I will now have to start afresh.
Yes.
You are being an expert, a witness of the courtroom. Why would you select only positive things that suits your view and not other things in other people's reports? Why would you do that?
I did not do that because I mentioned her report in my report. Otherwise, I would not have mentioned it at all if I wanted to avoid it completely.
I thought you would say that.
Yes.
I thought so. Why did you not annex this? If I never looked at your report, I wouldn't have known this.
No, it's in the front of my report.
No. The question is the following, Professor. Why was this not an annexure to your report?
I don't make annexures of all reports.
Is this
I
one?
mentioned them in the initial paragraph. I perused various documents, that being one of them, and that is how I got to my conclusions in the report.
I wanted to cover them. I wanted to tell the court
Yes.
what a proper report, but you never mention another report to this court. Why?
Yes, it is not in my nature to single out a colleague in a report and say, I disagree with the colleague and it is this and it is that. I'm now being forced to comment on the report, that's why I'm doing it. But I mentioned it in my report. I referred to the fact that I had perused it. I just differ with the report completely.
You see, I will go through the report because, I mean, we are now found. But why would you differ with her view that he was aggressive and verbally violent? Why would you differ with that?
The one reason being that I spent 27 hours with him in interviews, interviewed 22 people for collateral, she had spent, well, we don't know because she doesn't say how long she spent with him at all. That we don't know was an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. So this has not been my impression of him. It has not been what I found with my assessment, that he is that kind of person. That is why I would disagree.
Then you
It's
must
out of character for what she's...
You
that's
see,
what I'm...
if you say it's out of character, I understand it.
Yes.
But what you're saying now is she's lying. That's
No,
what you're saying.
I'm
Because
saying-
it doesn't fit the idea you have of Mr. Pistorius.
I'm saying she worked on very limited information.
How do
That's
you
what
know
I'm
that?
saying.
How do
Because
you
she
know?
doesn't indicate how long she saw him.
You see, Professor, I find it very interesting, your answer. If she hasn't indicated how long she saw him,
Yes.
how do you say it's limited?
Because the scope of her report is limited. The scope of her report is very limited.
You now, in preparation for this report,
So, yes.
saw the accused
8 hours and then,
8 hours.
yes.
Okay. She saw him on 3 occasions. Do you know that?
Yes, I think she says so in her report.
Yes.
Yes.
So why would you say that's limited?
The scope of the report is limited.
Why would you say the time she spent with him is limited, or was it not?
You need to spend a lot of time to do a comprehensive report.
You see,
So I'm making, yes, she's got a very limited report there. So
I see. Well, I'm just asking you. I mean, I might be wrong. But when I read this, I thought that a psychologist like you that would come to court and give a report, if I don't believe her, I would really try and find out from the source, from the prison. Did you?
no, from her, no.
From prison?
I interviewed the person who coordinated the
Yes.
courses and signed some of the course reports.
Yes. Well, I know who that person is. The person, he was in charge, he gave the courses and he signed the
Yes.
report. Did you never thought of having a consultation with anybody in authority at the prison?
No, I looked at the reports of the people who made recommendations to the parole board, for instance, and my overall impression was that there was just nothing negative. They were all positive. So I didn't see the need to go and talk to these people. I had their reports.
You see, what I find strange is that you wouldn't want to talk to people that saw him daily, that dealt with him daily, that can give you any insight into his violent behavior. You did not want to just talk to them.
No, I had good reports, to the contrary of her reports.
Exactly. You see, it suited the professor's view. I use things that support my view. I don't use things that's against my view.
But my view is that he's not a violent man, and that's based on my assessment of him,
but-
both in 2014 and now. So
But
yes,
doctor,
that is my
if
view.
another professional tells
Yes.
you that he is,
Yes.
that they know it, and if somebody comes and it's evidence that was there, what would you say about your assessment?
I would still compare my assessment with that assessment in terms of time, effort put in, tests done.
I'm talking about
Yes.
the eyewitness. If the eyewitness would
Yes.
stand there and
Yes.
say that he was violent towards her,
Yes.
you would say that's impossible because
No.
that's not how you see it.
No, my lady, I wouldn't say that's impossible. Come back to the point. He's got a condition. We know that if you have this condition, you often react out angrily. He's adapting to a very difficult situation. That is stressful. It is as if he's not being allowed any anger at all. And I'm saying anger is normal. I'm saying anger will at times come out, and specifically if the context is such that it is difficult. So I'm not saying that he's not verbally angry or aggressive at times, but I'm saying he's not a violent person in nature. The tests proved it. My assessment of him proved it previously and now. That's what I'm saying.
But her assessment was different.
Yes, her assessment was different, and I disagree with it.
And eyewitnesses would say their assessment of him was different.
He's violent in nature.
No, not
It's
in
in the
nature.
report.
No, not in nature.
It doesn't. It merely says at the beginning, he
Yes.
struggled to adapt. He was violent and aggressive. That's all it says.
Well, it goes a bit further. Yes, it says he was aggressive and violent towards the officials. Yes, he does.
Yes.
Yes.
Shall I continue, my lady?
No, I'm just wondering what this is all about. Nothing was said about him being violent in nature.
My lady, there was, I just couldn't hear you. I apologize because of the noise at the back.
I'm saying the report, unless
ma'am.
I'm missing something, it doesn't say anything about him being violent in nature. It
Yes.
says at the beginning, he struggled to adapt because he was aggressive and verbally violent towards officials.
Yes, ma'am.
So what I'm saying is there's no need for this debate.
Yes, my lady. May I just then finalize the debate
Please.
and say, Professor, I would have expected you to include that negative portion in your report and to deal with it. Why did you not do that?
Because I say again, my lady, I contrasted it with my impression and my assessment of this man over a long period of time. Contrasted it with how I went about assessing and how she went about assessing, which is you can gauge from her report. And then I decided, but surely I have put in more time, effort, scientific measures, and I'm happy with my view that he's not a violent man, and I don't need to address the aggression part. I addressed the criminogenic needs part, which he also addresses in my report, and that is why.
I've got your answer, because that's not the only place where she mentions it. At page 6, where she deals with the criminogenic needs and violence propensity. Lady, that's at page 6 of that report.
Yes.
Under the heading Risk Factors, paragraph 1, the last, I'll read the whole it to you. Violence propensity. Mr. Pistorius fired 4 shots through a closed door knowing that he could kill a person on the other side, and this in itself reflects on violence propensity. His fascination with guns demonstrates an underlying need to be violent when threatened. His initial behavior, and whatever her views was, his initial behavior inside prison of verbal aggression towards others is a further indication of explosiveness and potential to be violent. You don't agree with that?
Not at all, my lady.
But let's carry on, because what's also interesting, she dealt with Mr. Pistorius on the 14th of May, 21st of May, and the 28th of May, 2015. Then Mr. Pistorius' view was,
What page are you on?
page 6, my lady.
6.
Yes. Under paragraph 2, the 8th line of
Yes,
that paragraph.
I've got it. Thank you.
She, in her consultation with Mr. Pistorius, made the following finding. Mr. Pistorius explains that he fails to identify himself as having committed the crime as his intentions were to protect the victim. He did not even acknowledge that he committed the crime.
It's a very short sentence out of, I suppose, sorry, a bigger discussion. The point being that I see him a year later. And it might have been like that at that time. It's possible. It is not like that now.
Because now he knows, or now we know, that whatever happens has to do with resentencing. He knew that you were seeing him to draft a report for resentencing.
Yes, he knew that.
Yes. But we know that in May, he still had that view.
You see, the problem with that is that her conclusions there, that one specifically also, she does not indicate which guide she even used for criminogenic needs, like I did in my report, an evidence-based specific guide. So these conclusions of hers come somewhat out of the air. That is my dilemma.
You see, I hear what you're saying. My main concern is that you never mentioned the negative portions in that report, in your report. Even whatever view you had of the report, you never used it. And don't you think you should have?
No, not specifically the aspects she addresses, which is this aspect of aggression. So, my lady, I might be incorrect, but right throughout I could not find any finding on anger or aggression. Right throughout my assessment of this man, I could not find anger or aggression or violence as a personality trait, as something that has been there over time and that would probably continue into the future.
Now, you mentioned, and it's now twice, in explaining aggressive incidents, that one would expect that from a person suffering from PTSD, that he may.
It is actually one of the diagnostic criteria.
So, I don't know what will happen, but if somebody suffers from PTSD,
Yes.
and one has to use them in some way or other, would you think with children would be a good idea?
Yes, I don't see what the problem is with children.
What about the aggressive behavior?
We are taking it out of context now. The aggressive behavior erupts when there's pressure put on him by another individual. I don't expect this to happen with children at all.
You don't expect anybody that would work with children that would feel pressure, don't you?
Not that kind of pressure, not a personal attack or a confrontation of that kind. He has proven himself over time. Again, my assessment proved that he worked well with people of all ages. He gets along well with people of all ages. My sense was when I interviewed Mr. Leoko also that in general, while he was inside, he got along with everybody there. So suddenly one day we expect this eruption and now towards a child. It doesn't make sense for me, lady.
You see,
Don't see it.
there was a long answer. I got stuck with you. It's not the same context. There's no personal attack. Would you only expect the accused to behave with aggression when he's attacked?
No, I mean when he's confronted or when there's a disagreement of some kind, where the stress builds up, yes, he will be verbally aggressive, agitated, he's not feeling well, so he will snap at you, will shout at you. That's what he'll do.
And you say that is because of the condition he's suffering from?
Yes, I do.
The treatment of PTSD will necessitate a assessment and adaptation of the medicine or whatever is prescribed. Is that how you understand it?
I don't want to comment on the medicine, my lady. It's not really my field. Can't comment on the medication part.
So you don't know if, during his time in prison, you did not check if the dosage of his medicine and the kind of medicine changed over time?
No, I didn't check that. No. It's not my area.
Now, if he did not, then the PTSD and depression was under control.
No, my lady, that is unfortunately not. The one doesn't equal the other to say that it was under control.
But he coped.
It was perhaps somewhat controlled,
Yeah.
but it was not under control.
But if it worsened, one can deal with it in adapting whatever medicine he would get.
I suppose the medication would be up-titrated, different types maybe, but it's not my field that, my lady.
Professor Scholtz, I've started my cross-examination with saying that I understand that you drafted this report just to deal with the accused.
Yes, mate.
And nothing else.
Yes, mate.
Why were you at first reluctant?
Because of the possibility of an ethical dilemma with the Health Professions Council.
The ethical dilemma would have been?
That you have assessed somebody and you assess them then again, And because you assess them the first time, your objectivity is affected the second time.
Now, I have to put to you that I find, and it will be let me rather put it correctly, my argument, that in your report, you're biased towards the accused, to give a report that is best for the accused in terms of sentence. Is that what you tried to do?
What I tried to do is present the court with this person in the fullest extent. And to link what I saw in 2014 with now, to convey my understanding of him as a person over time, patterns that exist, so that the court can then see the person who's being sentenced. That is what I tried to do.
Lady, I have nothing further.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Ray?
May I make an indication as to what times the court will sit? I have limited question.
How much time do you need?
I think we may go about 10 minutes over.
About 10 minutes.
Yeah, if you
I
would
think
allow. Thank you,
We'll
Madam.
stay for the 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam. Professor, just going back to this report by Ms. Bayi, if I may ask you to go to page 8.
I don't have it in front of me, and Mr. Nelstor has.
I'll just hand it to you. Page 8 of the report, under conclusions.
Yes, it's exhibit SH.
SA. My lady, this would be, if I may ask you, because we've referred to it, can we mark it as SA1, Ms. Bayi's report, because there was reference to it?
Yes, it will be exhibit SA1.
I'm indebted to this court. If you go to the conclusion, if we talk now about this violent person, let's see what the review was. Could you read that about a conclusion?
Mr. Pistorius' risk of reoffending violently is low from an actuarial static perspective, largely in view of a clean crime and violence record, and violence risk rating scales will confirm this.
So this far you agree that this risk of reoffending violently is low.
Yes, that is also what I found.
Then she goes in the second sentence to a dynamic perspective. Can you read that?
However, from a dynamic perspective, there is risk indicated, as was demonstrated in the reflection on criminogenic needs, violence propensity, criminal thinking, self-control, and possibly alcohol and drugs.
Now, is this what you dealt with in your report, dealing with the criminogenic
That's correct.
factors?
Yes, I did a thorough evidence-based assessment of his criminogenic needs.
And what was your conclusion there?
I found one possible criminogenic need that could have been present at the time.
And that's what you dealt with in detail in your report that you read out to the court.
Yes,
So instead of referring specifically to her and to the disagreement, you took that conclusion that you disagreed with and you analyzed it and you explained why you disagree.
Lady, that is just such a leading question that the answer to that must just be yes.
Yes, Mr. Root?
Yes, my lady, I thought I'd take a shortcut. Let me take the long way. When you dealt with your criminogenic views, what did you refer to? In the context of what?
I linked the criminogenic need that might have been present to the crime that he committed, because that is what you need to do, and try to understand how that might have affected him in affecting this crime, because that is what criminogenic needs
At the time of doing so, were you aware of Ms. Bayi's report?
Yes, I was.
Did you take that into account at all?
Yes, I did. My thought processes were to do a proper assessment of criminogenic needs, but in an evidence-based way, a more scientific way. And in commenting there, I would have commented on what she said anyway. I would have addressed what she said in her report.
Now, I'm not sure what Ms. Mashabana will say because the state has not fully disclosed about that he was banging his hand apparently on the table, that conduct. But I asked the accused about it, and I want to ask you from from a perspective of your expertise, that the version that I get about it is that his hand was severely swollen. He believed that it was fractured. He got what you call rub, that's just an ointment, from her. His family brought him Voltaren that you don't need a prescription from. For you with me?
Yes.
And he waited 3 weeks for it. She refused to give it to him. And he had a notebook in his hand, and he wanted and banged the notebook. And he said that was completely unacceptable, that he cannot get Voltaren.
Yes.
How would that affect your view of the accused?
It illustrates my one problem with the view of the accused. As I said, mate, it's as if he's not allowed any anger, which, again, I say is a normal thing. And that is the kind of situation I tried to refer to just now, where he's confronted in a situation where there's high stress. He bangs his arm on the table, and that is then seen as extremely violent. That I can't agree with, because one must measure such an incident against the lifelong pattern of such a person. One cannot say when there's a specific incident, it now means as a person, as a personality, he's violent or aggressive. That I just did not find.
Then, what I also want to know, you expressed some views on the effects of isolation,
Yes,
of segregation.
yes.
And it was put to you that the cell is not locked. Now, I assume that a witness will give evidence on behalf of the state, and then we will have the full opportunity to put this. But if I put it to you that when the cell is opened, there where you can walk around is a passage of
Yes.
about 10 meters by 3 meters without any furniture. So would that be segregation?
Yes, that is what I meant, that apart from him being inside his 6 square meter, the larger area is also very small. And then there was one room that had a few instruments in it that you could gym with, which I then also said I wouldn't really call a gym. But so, yes, he had one neighbor and that area that he could move in.
And that area, I must say, had no furniture in. So you can walk up and down, but,
Yes,
but that's it.
it's a passage as I understood it.
Would it make a difference if you allowed 1 hour a week into a concreted courtyard?
1 hour.
1 hour a day, I'm sorry.
It's very little, my lady. The idea of being cut off, being with yourself all the time, that is what strikes me as psychologically damaging. Not being able to talk to other people.
I'm not suggesting to you, Professor, I understand when you say that he was supposed to go to a 5-star hotel.
No.
I'm merely talking about, because of his peculiar situation, what the effect of segregation would have been. That's all. I'm not saying that they were wrong to put him there,
Yes.
because he couldn't mix with the others.
Yes.
But it does not mean my understanding that you don't have the negative effects of that.
That's why
Is
I
my
said.
understanding correct?
Yes, my lady. That's why I said unfortunately. He had to be put there. I said in my report, it's unfortunate. But it does not then mean there are no negative psychological effects, which is what I tried to point out.
It was also put to you, and I want to make sure if that makes a difference to your report, that he offered to pay 6,500 rand a month, but then it was added that that must go off in case there's a civil claim, settling the matter. Can I give you, and then ask your view, if that would change your views in that respect? He paid 6,500 rand. No one asked for that. He paid that without any condition. What happened subsequently towards the end, there was an approach on behalf of her parents. And there was a process to get an agreement on an amount. And then, only at that stage, say, well, if we get to an agreement, let's include the 6,500. But the 6,500, when it was paid at the time, monthly, it was paid without any condition. Does it make any difference?
That's what I'm trying to say, my lady. This is how I understand the man. This is the kind of thing he will do. This is the kind of person he is. And my understanding was that he paid this money and he did not want it back, so it was not seen by him as some kind of means to change anything for the family. of the deceased, in the sense that they should feel more positive towards him or anything. But again, in terms of his lifelong pattern, of what has been described about him over his life, this is what he does. He helps. It comes almost naturally to him, and he enjoys doing it. So it fit in for me there.
Cipralex, that's for a prescribed medicine for his anxiety, is that correct?
It's actually for depression.
For depression. Because that was found in his cell. Cipralex, and the other one was Molipaxin, also prescribed?
Yes.
And what was that for?
It's also for depression.
So it was not an illegal substance.
Now, if that is what was found, then it was not an illegal substance.
Thank you, my lady. No further re-examination.
Thank you. Professor, thank you very much for your assistance. You may be excused.
My lady.
Can I just get an indication? What's the time?
Now, at the moment, my lady. It is 3:10, my lady.
Yes.
Will we take the adjournment till tomorrow?
Till tomorrow at 9:30.
Indeed.
And please, we must try to start exactly at 9:30.
Melanstallende uprising kort gemeint.
Welcome to SABC News. Now, these are live visuals from the sentencing hearing of murder convict Oscar Pistorius underway in the North Gauteng High Court. Judge Masipa has just adjourned proceedings until tomorrow. You heard their psychologist, Jonathan Scholtz. He was still on the stand for a few hours, being cross-examined by State Prosecutor Gerry Nel. Nel definitely not going easy on the doctor this afternoon.